when you tried to get the two forests connected together, were there any configurations of your environment that caused problems when you tried to connect the forests together? Were there?
You guys had problems? Talk about where you had.
Well, we did at one point after we had it set up. We had it set up one way, and we had a problem that we ran into where when we join a computer to the domain, it'd show a different name than what was actually the name. It was showing, I guess when we originally inputted, we put in a NetBIOS name for the Active Directory as something else, so it wasn't working right the way it should.
You had a different DNS name versus the NetBIOS name.
Yeah.
What'd you do? How'd you get around that? How'd you fix that?
We just wiped it and started over.
We were split into two groups, so we actually had the Europeans and the Americans. We had similar issues with naming and making sure that names were the same on this server as what they were on this server, as what, using making sure that the dash was in the right place for AFP-EU, which was one of our naming conventions, and we had some issues with that. But that was the total of it that we had on the European side, was to make sure that we kept the names straight as to what each computer was named in each domain. So that was the biggest issue we had.
Did you have any DNS problems? And when you went to the Forest Trust, how did you set up DNS to make that happen? What did you guys do with your DNS setup?
We didn't really have issues on it. How would the DNS in the USA resolve the domain stuff in the Europe or to connect? Would you set anything up on the DNS in the USA to go resolve and find information on the DNS in Europe? You did API
conditional forwarding?
Use what?
Conditional forwarding?
Use conditional forwarding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Forwarders in place across the whole. True.
You mentioned your IP scheme. Europe had a 165 dot address scheme, and the USA had 147. So you're using all public IP addresses for your network?
It's on a private network.
It's behind the
But
router.
you're using inside?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing's exposed to the internet.
You're using
so
public
that's
IP address
issues.
scheme inside the network, so you have 32/20 networks internally. Okay. Did you have any need for administrating one forest from the other? Did administrators from one side, is that still existing?
Yeah.
Did enterprise administrators have to control either forest from either side?
We had to, well, part of the design was to have the administrators from the US forest to be able to access and administrate the Europe forest. So
Were you able to set that up and test it? Did that?
we didn't quite
We
get
actually set it up, and I used my laptop to hook it up to the router, and we actually passed on the side. Everything was working properly.
You were able to access from one forest to another?
Yes, that was.
Oh, good.
Use my laptop to hook up the other administrator laptop and hook it up to the switch, and we'll be able to communicate on both sides. So that's how we know it's working properly.
Were you able to test cross-forest permissions, accessing or modifying anything from one side to the other? Yeah, get that more complicated.
We were a 20-foot crossover cable away from plugging two routers in each other. Wake up, son.
On the diagram that you have up there on the board, do you only have one domain controller per domain?
Yeah, we only have one domain controller per domain, and that's why we route it out from one to another in case this goes down.
We have two, but just one DHCP.
Yeah, we actually have two domain controllers, but we only have one DHCP per domain controller. That's what it is.
Okay, so you do have redundancy in place with the two domain controllers?
Yes.
Okay, how about RAS server? Do you only have one, or is that part of the?
The two RS servers for redundancy. There were multiple RS servers.
So you have 4 servers altogether? Is that?
What are all the
Yeah,
servers you plan to have?
For our test area, we had 4 computers to work with on each side. 2 were set up as domain controllers, 2 were set up as the secondary, which we ran secondary things on. We ended up having to put our file servers, for instance. You had a lot of shared responsibilities amongst the computers, but 2 of them were set up to be used as ROS, 2 were set up to be used primarily as domain controllers.
What was your design going to come out to be? And what are the number of servers?
We had planned on 2 domain controllers, 2 ROS servers per domain, and then we would have the file servers, at least 2 of those. If they needed more file servers based on how many users they had, they could add more of those, and then a print server as well.
Are those all separate machines?
Yes.
And add more if you need them.
Yeah. You'll probably need them with 2,200 users.
You mentioned you had previous versions available. How are you planning on installing previous versions client on your workstations? Did you say you're going to have shadow copies? Shadow copies. Did you have a plan, or did you test any kind of plan for making it easy to get that on all of your workstations? I don't know if you pursued that as part of the plan.
I think the easiest way that we could have implemented that, no, I don't think we physically implemented it. The easiest way we could have implemented that would have been through using a batch file to map that to a drive.
Install the batch file?
Yeah. Would have been the easiest implementation.
You got 2,200 computers. What are you going to do to get that stuff installed on those machines equally?
So we're going to administrate it from the domain level. Add it into, we had mapped drives as it was. We had, we just add to the file that's already being run on the systems themselves as they come out.
Any other method that would already have that installed once you bring up the machine online?
Unattended install?
What's that?
Unattended install?
Was there a simple way for you to get an application installed on your workstations with the least amount of effort? Is there any part of Active Directory that might help you do that?
You talking about an external
How many
application or
how many
a
guys
security update or?
Was there a requirement to install applications from the network automatically?
No.
Does
wasn't
Active
required.
Directory have a tool that will allow you to automatically bring down the installation of applications on machines?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you remember what that is?
WSys.
What's that?
WSys.
Well, that's for the
Updates?
updates, yeah.
Updates, yeah.
What about just an application? I need Office to be installed on 15 machines.
It was
Remote
RIS. Yes, RIS.
Okay, that's to get the whole entire operating system. GPOs.
What else? GPOs.
GPOs, software installation of GPOs. No, we didn't work on that.
Okay.
No, we didn't.
Just curious. You mentioned RAIDs on your servers. I thought I heard both striping and RAID 5. What was the plan? I didn't quite understand the plan on installing. You're going to use hardware, I think I heard you say? Hardware RAID?
Software RAID.
Oh, it's a software RAID?
For now, yes.
Oh, okay. So how are you planning on making the operating system redundant using software RAID? Is that what you went over?
No, you'd have 2 drives for the domain controllers, which would give you'd have your RAID 1 implementation on those drives.
Oh, okay.
Which gives you your mirrored drives, which gives you your redundancy on
Okay,
those.
mirror.
And then use striping across 3 drives on the file servers for redundancy. It doesn't give you redundancy, but it gives you security that you're not going to lose that much. It could probably restore it to local.
Okay. So you use RAID 5 for your data and RAID 1 for your operating system?
Yes.
Okay.